Hey there guys, so this is the last video for this unit, and in this video we're going to be talking about how to compare fractions. Alright, we've talked about how to find equivalent fractions, and we've also talked about using benchmark fractions to see if a fraction is close to 1/2 or 1 whole, bigger than 1/2, bigger than 1 whole, smaller than 1/2, smaller than 1 whole. All right, today we're going to be just simply comparing fractions. So I'm going to show you how to do this with our fraction strips. Remember, we're thinking when we think in comparing, greater than, less than, equal to, and the greater than and less than symbol look a little bit like a mouth, right? And you guys can think about that alligator mouth. The alligator likes to eat the bigger number. All right, so we have greater than, we have less than, or we have equal to. Those are going to be our only three answers that we can put for comparing. All right, so let's say I have 2/5 and I want to compare it. You usually see like a little circle thing in the middle there. I want to compare this to 3/4. Now, what I cannot just do is look at the numerators and look at the denominators and make a decision. I cannot just look at it. And here's why. Well, you may be thinking, well, if I'm looking just at the denominators, 5 is bigger than 4, so 2/5 is bigger than 3/4. Or if you look just at the numerators, well, 3 is bigger than 2, so 3/4 must be bigger than 2/5. Well, how do you pick which one you're looking at? Right? It's kind of tricky. So we want to use some math to help us figure this out. Now, I'm going to show you how to do it using the fraction strips first. All right, I'm going to represent 2/5, and I'm going to represent 3/4. I'm going to see which one takes up more space because that's the bigger fraction. All right, well, 2/4 is already bigger than 2/5, isn't it? When I'm looking at this, 3/4, look at how much more space this takes up than 2/5. So 3/4 is greater than 2/5. The fraction strips are always going to be a really easy way to do this, but unfortunately you're not always going to have fraction strips, or you might have a denominator that you don't have a fraction strip for. So what else can we do? Well, we can do a few things. We could draw pictures to represent this. We could draw a number line to represent the two fractions. Or we can do some calculating to figure it out. I'm going to tell you that calculating is going to be your most effective strategy because when we draw pictures, we're not always very accurate with how we draw them. Okay, so what am I going to do? Well, I have 2/5 and I have 3/4. I want to find fractions that are equivalent to 2/5 and 3/4 that have the same denominator, because if I have the same denominator, I know that my pieces are all the same size. So then all I have to do is look at the numerator and find the bigger number. That's easy, right? Well, how do I do that? What do I do to find fractions that are going to, how am I going to figure that out? There's a really cool trick, okay? I can multiply 5 times 4. What does 5 times 4 equal? 5, 10, 15, 20. So my new denominator for both of my fractions is going to be 20. Okay? Then I can do this. It's called cross multiplication. It's a super cool trick. You notice this looks a little bit like a butterfly, right? 4 times 2 equals 8. So 8 goes here. 5 times 3 equals 15. So 15 goes here. 8/20 is equivalent to 2/5, and 15/20 is equivalent to 3/4. So now all I'm doing is looking at my numerators. Well, you guys can see we already know 3/4 is bigger because I did it with the fraction strips, right? That was nice and easy. But let's look at this. 15 is bigger than 8, right? It's quite a bit bigger, which means 15/20 is bigger, which in 15/20 is equivalent to 3/4. So again, we just do this really cool trick. It's It's called cross multiplication or the butterfly method, and this is always going to help us to be able, it doesn't matter what the fraction is. Let's say I have 2/7 and I have 3/6. Same thing. 7 times 6 is 42. 6 times 2 is 12. 7 times 3 is 21. So I have 12 over 21, or sorry, 42. And then I have 21 over 42. Which one of those is bigger? Well, my denominator is the same. 21 is bigger than 12, which means 3/6 is bigger than 2/7. Okay? So what I'm doing is I'm finding the equivalent fractions because, let's break this down a little bit more, just so you can see why this works. All right? Remember, when I'm finding equivalent fractions, I'm thinking, well, what can I multiply by? If I multiply 3/6 times 7 over 7, right, because that denominator is 7, then I get 21 over 42. If I take 2/7 and I multiply it by that denominator, fraction equivalent to 1, all right, well, you can't see that. Sorry, guys. All right, so that's why it works. I wanted to show you why it works, but really the key is doing the butterfly method, right? Anytime you are comparing fractions, anytime you have to see if the fractions are equal to each other, greater than, less than. Anytime you're comparing fractions and they give you fractions, you can do this. All right? Oh, but Mrs. Long, I really want to draw pictures. Okay. So let's draw pictures. Which one's bigger? It's kind of hard to tell, right? Especially because my pictures aren't perfect. It looks like 3/4 is bigger than 2/3, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm going to do my butterfly, right? Just draw a butterfly. It's a funky looking butterfly, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 2 is 8. Now, I can rewrite this all out to be 9/12 and 8/12. Or I can just leave it like this, because I can look right here. My denominators are going to be the same. They're going to be 12. So what are my numerators now? 9, 8. The bigger number is over the bigger fraction. Okay? What if I have this one? Let's figure it out. 6 times 8 is, oh, I forgot. Well, I know 8 times 5 is 40. Wait, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Yeah, 8 times 5 is 40. So 8 times 6 is 48. See, you have to use your tricks sometimes. All right, multiply. 8 times 3 is 24. 6 times 4 is 24. Oh wait, look at that. They're the same. The same means equal, equivalent. There's another strategy for checking to see if fractions are equivalent. If you do this butterfly strategy and they end up with the same number on top, the fractions are equal to each other. Okay, the bigger number is over the bigger fraction, but if they're both the same, right, this is 24/48 and 24/48, those two fractions are equal to one another. So this is a strategy that is always going to work when you're comparing fractions. Always. All right? This is called cross multiplication. What's really cool is this is probably something your learning coach learned how to do in school. I know I learned it when I was in school, all right? And it's a really cool strategy because it's a trick for finding equivalent fractions so then we can compare fractions. It's a trick for finding a common denominator, a denominator that's the same, so that when you're looking at the same size denominator, you know you're dealing with same size pieces. Every single piece that has a 10 on it is the same size, right? So now I'm just comparing the amount of pieces that I have. But if I'm comparing these tenths to these eighths, I can't compare the amount of pieces I have because my pieces aren't the same size. My eighths are bigger. So I have to make the pieces all the same size. And we do that by finding an equivalent fraction. And again, this is one strategy you can use for finding an equivalent fraction. Now, if you prefer a different strategy for finding an equivalent fraction and comparing the fractions, that's absolutely fine. There are other strategies, and your lesson goes over some of those other strategies, but this is my favorite. I think that this is by far the easiest strategy. It doesn't take that much time, and it always is going to work. Okay, so there you have it. Butterfly method. You multiply the denominators together. That becomes your new denominator, and then you multiply across the wings. That's why it's called cross multiplication, across the wings to get your new numerators. And then all you have to do is compare those numerators together. All right, there you have it. That's your first unit on fractions. You see, fractions aren't so scary when we work hard and understand what they are and what they mean, and we use that to help us. Then fractions become a lot less intimidating. All right, and we're going to keep working with fractions. Your next unit is going to be going over adding and subtracting fractions, and then the next unit is going to be going over multiplying fractions. So we are going to continue working with fractions for a good bit. It's definitely something you want to become familiar and comfortable with. And always, if you have any questions, let us know. Bye, guys.